It's Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. I woke up this morning. I'm hemorrhaging more than yesterday. It's really concerning. I'm in this. Waiting for Linda to get ready, and then I'm going to head over to the hospital. Now this morning on See the BS, there's this movie, The Good Nurse by Jessica Chastain, they're saying, and some woman who it's really based off of. Watching their version of it, of this real woman's story, of what she went through, just gives me acknowledgement that these things really happen in the field. For me, it brings back the traumatic events that I've gone through in the War of the Roses episode of 1975, being blacksmithed into my real path, and the real first husband that tried to murder me by choking me and breaking my hyoid bone while I slept in this area, for which I don't know why, when there's a master somewhere, there's an artwork dealer somewhere, and there's a Pentecost calendar with real serious birds that it deals with between a one head and a two head in like the monsters category of seriousness. I don't understand why a 1013 went into play in my breeding season. Really, I don't. What I do know in seriousness is I am a Mary, M-A-R-Y, with a W-E-D, a wed, and I am a T-H-U-R-S on every calendar because it's cosmically woven. Two ways. One in a 77 for my protection, and one in a 05. One in a 19th century, one in a 20th century. Just so we're crystal clear. Now, I'm watching, yesterday I was reporting in this menthol taste. Petro is some form of chemical compound of an alcohol. It burns in some combustible weapons of mass destruction, which is the automobile field. It fumigates the area and you breathe it in. It's like breathing in those vape cartridges, kind of, sort of, but on a whatever scale. So now there's a show called The Resident that Linda watches. Season 6, episode 5 has a very key part I walked in on yesterday. I heard ketoacidosis and I was like, is that taped? She said it was. It's out on Fox, Fox. So I watch TV producer land. I'm in America. I'm thinking, this is how educated the doctors are. I walk into a hospital, I expect this level of service. But yet I go to the hospital and to the doctor's office, and they are like space cadets. I mean, not in like a Elon Musk SpaceX kind of a way. They're in like already being gassed in the field, and now I've got like the best of the worst, and they're not even putting two and two together. I mean, if I asked the doctor, which I wouldn't, because again, I'd then sound crazy, and then they might put me in medical restraints for asking smart, intelligent questions in the field, expecting a doctor to actually make a grade and a mark. So this is how they portray themselves in the medical field, which couldn't be further from the truth.
Marco, what's going on? Something's not right. I can't catch my breath. My body hurts all over.
His lungs are clear, and his sats are fine. He's just breathing 40 times a minute. Marco, try to take long, slow breaths. Let's get a blood gas. Hold on. His lab just came in. This explains it. His lactic acid is sky high.
Those little tablets that they all insisted they needed that would just make them better and more efficient, right? It didn't. It made them slower and more useless as far as I'm concerned, because like now they don't actually think. Now they rely on the machines to feed them the answers.
The Ischemic bowel or a perf? Unlikely. His belly exam is soft, but his blood pressure is stable. Infection, then, or alcoholic ketoacidosis.
Alcohol? It degrade my body's ability to fight off infection? Ruin my liver? I do not drink alcohol.
Okay, so no alcohol, but let's get more fluids running. Hand culture, start broad spectrum.
Right, and in my sense, I'm not drinking alcohol, but I'm breathing it in the air because of these weapons of mass destruction that they've put in and installed in, like as if there's some no health effects, right? Yeah, okay. Except I'm hemorrhaging, and then I go to the doctors. I have this high concentration of carbon dioxide in my blood. I'm bleeding, and it's been a long time I've had anemia, and they don't seem to have any answers. Then I turn to the good nurse, and I hear Jessica go through yeah, she went to nurse school. Yeah, so did I. They built a school for you. Great. Yeah, they have one here too. Went through it myself in like the crisis actor and then like a real Hollywood actor. Right. And even Gail's like, you really look like a nurse. Yeah, that's what happens when you go for training. I mean, again, however you get the training, you get the training. It was on my matriculated schedule. There were others in the field that knew. They were there. They knew the school was real. So now, and now I'm just using the education to protect myself from the state and from the people operating in the state here.
Antibiotics to be safe. And a tox screening could be an ingestion. Marco, are you diabetic?
Alcohol and diabetes. Are you guys insulting me?
Sorry, but are you on the diabetes medication metformin?
Well, of course. Yeah, you guys should be too. That stuff is a miracle drug.
That miracle drug could be what's making you so sick. Metformin can cause a dangerous buildup of lactic acid.
You guys can fix it, right?
We should be able to, but we're gonna have to admit you to the ICU and start you on dialysis.
Oh, so they actually admit them into the hospital, they do the diagnostic tests there, and then they fix them. I mean, like, it's made for TV scripting. Why aren't the real performers actually performing at this level if this is what you're saying hospital is supposed to look like at having a high standard and expectations in the field for which charity and donations built the foundation? Why aren't they performing at any level the way that they need to be? Just curious, because they keep accepting money. It's taxation without representation on my health. I mean, at Last Supper, there being a supra, and then there being a very, like, image-specific reason for that. I mean, I'm girl with the pearl earring singularly, but I have a Mary to Je suis, Jesus, image of the 12 disciples, Jesus being 13, and there being real importance there for communication standards. Now, for triggering trauma response, if that's what the good nurse was put up here this morning for, because they also have a really great compilation that the humans in this network put together this morning for a conversation I actually sat and listened to. Normally when they do like election stuff and their political analysts come on, I shut it off. I won't even listen to it because the amount of garbage and the wrong information that's accumulated. But this morning, I thought that they changed things around. They have some key op phrases, and I thought for once, maybe they're moving in the correct direction for one conversation, since someone at Big Bird adopted a couple of kids that should have been like an aborted mission years ago. But for reasons outside my understanding, he kept his adopted family and then rearranged some of the chairs, even though the Last Supper and the Super have a very real who's invited to supper. They have a real high standard at what's allowed in this current area based on prior history leading into this history. And so this is representative of the 75. There's one image where her face is all scarred and she wakes up. One image is where her face is all scarred. Been there. Waking up in a house, he's in the house, and my face is all scarred. That's one time period. Then there's an image of her in a hospital and him at the bedside. That would most likely be when my son was born, the last one, for which I can't confirm who the father was. He was in the area, but he's been stalking me for quite some time now. And it is a real serious problem, especially since Hollywood already put out the War of the Roses, and he played into that hand without my knowledge, because I hadn't seen the movie, of the top hat and a couple of other pieces in really frightening stalking, and then staying quiet and silent at someone's bedside while they grow more and more sick. Right around the time, by the way, where my children were maturating from youth into boyhood and adulthood, which also really frightens me in the amount of sick that this man brings into any room that he walks into.
Talking about a new film inspired by the true story of a critical care nurse who helped stop a serial killer. That serial killer, Charles Cullen, in 2004, pleaded guilty to killing 29 hospital patients, and the real number may even be higher. He admitted to doing it by injecting deadly doses of medicine in their saline drips, and said there were more victims likely over his 16-year career, more than just the 29. That's a huge number. He's serving multiple life sentences. His fellow nurse and friend, Amy Lochran, she helped stop him. She worked with police, and she got him to confess. This was crucial. The thriller, the movie we were talking about, is The Good Nurse, starring Jessica Chastain, and it's based on Amy's story. In the scene you're about to see,
so there's the woman with the beat up face, and they reference a baby. Just saying, in my traumatic experience, that's what happened.
See, Amy suffers a heart episode after growing more suspicious of Cullen and wakes up to find him by her bedside. Take a look.
Where's the nurse? Don't worry. Your last pressure looked pretty good. Your heart rate's been below 80 for the last hour.
Now, also, when 2015 happened and that cyber attack happened, I had gone to the court systems. I had Tiafreo removed from the house. I wrote very explicitly to the courts my concern. I was at my son's school, and he tried to grab my son out of my arms. And there was actually a school security guard who went to his truck and grabbed a firearm to come back and help me to get him off of school grounds, because he was threatening me and my son. I put that on court document, and I filed that in Suffolk County. And then he used my mom to take my son from me and hand them off to him. Right about that time is when I was going through the cyber attack, and I wound up going National Guard booth, police. I called Michael Hewson, who, whatever in the scandal from the other Anthony for tie-ins of microphones that work. Hewson, we have a problem. Is this thing still on? So then I have, I'm in the hospital. He does not come to Stony Brook at all. Stony Brook does not do a brain scan whatsoever. But China, somebody from China, Beijing, is sitting right next to me. She's a foreign exchange student, and she's at the bedside for my bedside security my entire stay at Stony Brook, while I'm asking for a national security representative. While she may be nationally secure with China, and I have a great appreciation of their concern for my health, being, and welfare, for the business office and personal relationships, I do have a concern with the fact that what I needed was perhaps more of a Tom Brady representative, a little closer in cosmic relation, or a little closer in my bloodline for whoever delivered Alexander into this world. That's what I needed. And that's who I wanted to speak to about what I was going through. And instead, they sent me somebody from China. And now they transport me to another hospital, which is some kind of mental institution where they lock me in for 7 days for observing me. I refused all drugs. I would not take a single thing that they were offering. I didn't want drugs in my system. And so I stayed there. And while I was there, this is the creepy way he came to visit me. He kept calling me on the payphone and then came to visit me. And this is what creepy looks like when you have some kind of inside job going on and you can't rid yourself of the toilet paper that got stuck to your shoe.
I saw the labs and your troponins high, but it's trending down, so you're good. You're okay. You're lucky. Could have been a lot worse. Go home.
I just wanted to go home to my children. I wanted to be so far away from him. I knew he was up to something. He was up to no good. He was up to something, and nobody was talking about it. But there were records being made. There were things being moved, and I was frightened for my own safety and my children's safety. And now I have the first ex-husband who attempted to assassinate me. And then I have the second one who I've been drugged in his presence and woken up in compromising situations. I've also been poisoned while in his presence. How do I get away from this level of domestic violence and abuse, and especially in a state that has sat by and allowed it to go on while it's coloring itself in some coloring book in all the most highly vulnerable places into some new operation, it looks like.
Hey, sir, how are you doing? You awake?
Yeah.
Bring me discharge form. Yeah. I don't think that's a good idea. Oh, she should stay overnight.
Yeah, we got this.
I want to leave AMA. You sure?
That's a real scene from your life.
It is, yes.
What was it like? And Jessica,
Okay, CBS E208 this morning finally has America Decides Campaign 22. It sounds like they're finally getting some form of the conversation correct. Kind of, sort of, is the IHS Pentecost calendar finally working with the billing department on getting the artwork dealer and his girl with the pearl properly diagnosed at the Last Supper? I'm just curious.
back now at 7:30 here on CBS Mornings, and the midterms are less than 3 weeks away. Every vote counts, but there are blocks of voters that really could sway things. We wanted to understand them more, and to help us, we're joined now by Face the Nation moderator Margaret Brennan and CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto. Okay, guys, so
Wow, he's the elections and survey coordinator. How is that going to muddy up the waters if he's not acting with the correct artwork dealer? Might have serious consequences.
You've termed election influencers. They include, if I have this right, pressured parents, Trump true believers, restoring Roe voters, and the young and restless. No relation to the show. Anthony, starting with you, what can you tell us about these 4 groups you've isolated?
We want to understand the election through the motivations of the people who are participating in it and get away from the usual labels, demographic labels, party labels. We have interviewed so many voters through the course of our CBS News polling. This is what emerged from that data as people tell us this is how they process this campaign. So we want to bring you that.
Okay, so tell us, can you just give us a TikTok on each one of them? Pressured parents means?
Indeed. Pressured parents are people who were dealing with COVID and reported that they felt stress about that and their kids, and now they're facing financial pressure after inflation on top of that. That's where we start, and that group is somewhat close.
Pressured parents, post-pandemic stress, that's after they broke everything, over the finances and the kids. Yeah, who did you all adopt? And then impacted by this, everybody's the same. The inflation. That's ION's perspective, anyhow.
Closely divided, leaning a little bit more Republican right now, but it's those dual pressures that really define them.
Trump true believers?
Trump true believers are people who consider themselves MAGA Republicans, and they
I'm just EO me EO on this. I know my one, like, whatever that knows about the MARY and the WED we share in a THURS respectable. I know he knows what EO me EO means.
They don't like the direction of the country. They want the party to be
Ready to
loyal
go.
to the former president. And they're really
Okay.
the center of gravity in the Republican Party right now.
Restoring Roe voters?
Restoring Roe, very simply, single-issue voters on abortion. These women say that is what is motivating them.
And my favorite category, not related to the show, is Tony pointed out, the young and the restless.
Young and the restless. I call this is a turnout story for the ages, which is to
I'm
say
leaving.
they're not the largest group in the electorate, but they could really matter if they show up.
30, no kids. And Margaret, you spent some time with people in the pressured parents group. What'd you learn?
Yes, we've been digging into a lot of these topics, and this was one of the most powerful focus groups we did. Getting parents to talk about what they've been through, and the collective trauma of COVID is with us now. It's in the mental health crisis. This mother telling us about her 12-year-old.
Okay, I have to get to the hospital in real life. So I have to leave. I can't even finish the full video because that's the severity for which my health comes as far as a priority goes. So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.